So the first part of what I'd like to talk about is what is a connector, and are you a connector, and what maybe is the mindset of a connector. When I was this little kid, I started connecting people. I have no idea why. Even in high school, if I got interviewed for a job and I didn't think I was the right one for it, I would be like, oh, you need to meet one of my classmates. They would be perfect at this. So evidently I was like wired with it. But it's something that we can all learn to do. In the book, The Tipping Point, there's actually an exercise. How many of you have the tipping point or have heard of the tipping point? Okay. There's actually an exercise in there. And it involves taking this list of names and checking off how many, very diverse names, how many of that list that you know somebody with a last name like that. And it actually is a way of seeing if you're a connector, because part of it is, Mark talked about this. It used to be each person might average knowing 250 people. That now is actually much bigger because of the social media and how we can stay connected. But when you go through that list and you check off people's names, it can kind of like help you see if you're a connector. But there's other ways. You can tell that Mark is a connector because his wheel is going, I call in my brain, I feel like I have like this Rolodex that just, and those that know me well, especially like Cynthia Corral, you can tell when I go into the Rolodex. It's like, okay, I know there's somebody up there. And when Steve mentioned, how do we keep it all? I don't actually even know, because I may not have seen somebody for 10 years, and I'm like, I know somebody. But I also use a computer, and I love ACT software, and I keep people in a contact management program. Because I'll go, I know I met him at a reference. I know I met him at an eWomen Network conference. In fact, I got to tell you this story before I move on, because it kind of blew my mind. So I have a girlfriend named Lethea Owens, and we hadn't talked in a while. And she happened to just call and check up on me, seeing how I was. And she is starting this really new, fantastic program to help senior girls. And we're talking, and she wants to buy this domain name. And she goes, yeah, we came up with this great domain name idea. And wouldn't you know it, somebody has it, but I'm going to reach out to this person. And the person's in Florida, she's in her late 70s, and I'm thinking, maybe she won't be as interested in using the domain name. And there's a voice in my head going, ask her who it is. And then the other voice in my head, does anybody have two voices? Warning! Warning! I've got to warn all of you. I have... So the one voice is saying, what are the chances you're going to, why are you wasting your time, And the other part is, I wonder who it is. So I said, Lethea, who is it? She said, Dr. Florence Alexander. And I said, wow, that name sounds familiar. And in my head, that Rolodex is going, is it someone that I've read their book? Is it someone I've met? Why is it so familiar? I said, Lethea, just a second, I'm going to pull them up on Google. Pulled it up on Google. It's like, I go, is she African-American? She goes, yeah. I go, I've met her. I've talked with her. I have 2 of her books. She gave them to me at a conference. And that's kind of like a connector, keeps this information. Then I said, well, maybe I met her in 2007 because I don't go every year to their conference. I pulled it up because of my database. I met her in 2002. Now, my brain wouldn't hold all of that. In fact, people that know me well know I have certain things my brain will hold really well and a lot of things it doesn't. But connecting is something that I love to do. So, are you a connector? If you find that you love to connect people and help people, you may be a natural connector. There's ways that you can make it even more strategic and bigger. There was something that was asked, I think Dan asked Mark about, I'm actually switching now from connector to making connections. But Dan asked Mark about how does he stay up? If you want to really build relationships, he used the word Debbie Downer. I have a sister-in-law named Debbie, and sometimes she can really be a downer, but she's awesome, I love her. But she can be, sometimes what's all wrong with the world? If we go into situations and we meet people and we bring that baggage of all the things wrong, you know what happens to the people's energy you're talking to? Can anybody tell me in the room? Dawn, it goes down. It goes down. What happens when you walk into the room and you're up, and you say, like Dawn, I love Dawn's top. I think it is like, like I remember the woman who likes me to dress with V-necks, like, oh, I love that, it's a V-neck, you know. That feels better than, oh gosh, I was diagnosed with diabetes, and you know, there's energy in connections and making connections with people. So coming in with that positive attitude, let me see here, I'm using a clicker that I've not used before. Oh, one of the things, this is about finding jobs. For people who are looking for jobs, which may not be our group, but 56% in the tipping point they talk about comes from having a personal connection. In the world of business-to-business relationships, the Referral Institute, Mark, you've been through the Referral Institute, right? Yes, I have. Do you know that stat, like this one blew me away, about making a personal recommendation. Not only is it kind of like we probably all know that if I refer someone to you, we got a better chance of doing business, but did you also know that the longevity is increased? So not only do we make a one-time transaction, but usually the link. Do you remember that number? I remember being in there and it was like... I
don't remember, but I mean, people do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Right. Right. And when you come recommended from someone that someone says the two of you guys really need to talk, you already got the door to open wide for you. Just don't blow it, as Mark said, once you get inside of the door. So the energy that we bring when we walk into places, when we go to events, if we're bringing the positive energy, and actually for me, if someone is going to be all about all the things that have been wrong, I'm not going to want to hang around them. I'm really not. I love to go more toward the ones that are more excited about life, that are, you know, your bucket could be half full or half empty. And it's up to you to fill it too. There's a wonderful, wonderful book called How Full Is Your Bucket, if you haven't read it. And it's by the people that also created the StrengthsFinder assessment tool. And it's something that I like people to think about that I work with, is what are they doing for their bucket and the bucket of the people around them. In fact, it's how full is your bucket. And actually, you'll hear me come up with lots of business trivia. They have these drops that you can put into, like you can send a drop to someone to fill their bucket. In fact, I know Dawn Barry would probably love that because she's so relationship oriented. You can go in there and just say, you know, the tips you gave me today about the roofing that I need for my house were, you know, whatever. I know that's not too cool of one, but we'll come up with a cooler one. But you can put drops in people's emotional bucket, because like who in this room does not want to hear something good about themselves every once in a while? I mean, you know, we're out there trying to make things happen. So when I'm through today too, one of the things I really hope is that I know with Mark, I'm already, like I have my gold nuggets from today. And I hope too that I'm going to have some gold nuggets that you can go back and do something with. So positive energy is good. Looking for the good in other people. I know I'm guilty of this. I wish I wasn't. But I will judge someone. And I know nobody else in the room does this, but I do. And I have been wrong as many, I mean, you know, so many times. I can remember thinking somebody didn't like me. I'm a borderline extrovert, introvert. I'm more extroverted in business and more introverted in my personal life, which is kind of weird. But if someone doesn't seem to like me because they're introverted and they don't talk as much, I take it that they don't like me. Not that they just don't talk as much or they don't engage as easily. And thank goodness these people in my life have ended up, we've had these great conversations like, oh my God, I love you. It's like, I can't tell, you know. But they'll tell me in ways, you know, like we'll have these conversations. And so when we show up, the more we show up to love people, the more we show up to accept people right where they are. I have some friends that other people will make judgments about because they run late or they don't do some things the way they might do them. And it's like, you know, we are all just really different. And if we can just love people right where they are, you will make more connections. The other thing is, the more you talk about other people, around other people, and you say not nice things, you're really not going to reap as much. You're just not. You're going to push energy away from you. Even if someone agrees with you, what are you going to say about that person when they're not there? So I love my friends that sometimes when we're saying something, we're trying to discuss something and we're trying really hard not to be negative about it. It's like, you know, like, I still love this person. And this is a little challenging for me. To me, that's better than going, oh, this person is a witch, or he's this or that, which we can do. You know, we can do that. So, you know, kind of just this whole thing about our attitude and how we think about people. And I love the whole concept. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the book, The 1 Minute Millionaire by Mark Victor Hansen, and I can't remember the other guy's name. But in it, they talk about your attitude, and they talk about having a rubber band on and catching us when we're being negative. So anybody that's ever come through one of my Joy of Goals workshops, I put rubber bands on every table, and it's kind of something that I like to do because, as my husband will say, you're not sounding very positive right now because you talk about being positive, and I'm not always. But even though in that moment I might want to do this to him, I want him to catch me. I want him to catch me. And in my world, with my girlfriends and the guy friends, we do actually call each other on that. You know, like, how could we reframe that to be more positive? And it affects us making connections to people. I'm bringing all of this up because the attitude you walk in the door with is the attitude that everybody's going to feel, the attitude that everybody's going to know. When you're having a really down day, you know, you might need to sit in the car and pray or do your higher power and meditate. What is going to move me from this yucky feeling? So when I walk in there, in fact, I can't remember who Oprah interviewed, but it's something about we are responsible for the energy we bring into the room. We are. So anyway, connections, let's see. So I gave you guys a handout, and actually before we get into some of the things, what I kind of call a system for staying connected and making connections, I would like to do this little thing in the room here. And I want everybody to pay attention to everybody else when I ask these questions. Like, who in here loves going to the movies? Okay, oh, pretty many people in the room. Who in here love to go for the Sylvester Stallone high testosterone movies in the room? Okay, okay. Who loves the romantic comedies, you know? Okay, and what I'm wanting you to do, actually, Karen Libby, is I'm wanting you to look around. Because here's what I'm wanting you to see. Who in the room is like you? Who in the room? Who in here loves to go to bed and breakfast? Who feels like a bed and breakfast is camping? I'm sorry. You know, we're all different. Who in here is a dog person? Like they talk to their dog like it's a baby. Once my kids grew up, I will tell you that before that I used to think those people were like, why are they talking to that dog like it's a baby? Like, why are they carrying it? Who in here is a cat person? They love the cat to come and snuggle. Okay? So who in here loves to watch race cars? Race. Oh, who loves, is it BMWs? No. Is it BMWs that you're really into? Like yeah, you know?
Yeah, I like BMW.
Okay. Who in here loves golf? Like, golf's a big deal to them. Bill. Okay, Michael. Who in here likes bowling? Like Susie Tozier's over at, okay, some people like, who's had a few 200 games? A couple of, I have, in the old days. Who likes really camping? Like getting out there in the, oh God, you guys. There's 3 in here that like camping. Nature, yeah, nature. I like nature, but actually more probably one of her pictures that are beautiful. Nature in bed breakfast. Who in here is like a lifelong learner that they just can't get enough? I would say pretty much almost everyone in here, or you would not be in this room. Who's into alternatives? Like, I had ovarian cancer, and I did the traditional, like, Western stuff, but I also did the Eastern stuff. Who's into alternative healings? And oh, Dan, you're into alternative healing? What about acupuncture? For the people in the room that don't know Dan is an incredible well, he's an incredible chiropractic, but acupuncture is one of his specialties. And I fell in love with Dan because of Bill Purnett, because Bill Purnett's back was like absolutely horrible, horrible beyond, and Dan helped him. Dan's actually been helping me with my diabetes thing. So if you didn't, now I'm going to ask in the room that actually did kind of look to see what happened when you saw someone else in the room had an interest like yours. Did anything happen?
Got a connection.
Oh, okay, wait a minute. I talked about your attitude. Cynthia, I'm not doing real good on my slides today. So. But, you know, I'm going to come back. But you made a connection. And that's actually one of my big points about the whole, like, I'm not a big fan of the word networking because I think it's kind of like the word sales can be a bad word. That it's what Mark was talking about. People come and they just throw these business cards out. And if I don't have a connection to Jeff, I'm really not going to refer him. I'm not going to think about him. But if Jeff, and I got to tell you a story about Jeff. Jeff used to be a client of mine in the old days when I had a barter company. And he's, besides the left brain psychological associates work that he does, he's also this incredible magician. Well, I don't know this. I just know he's my client. I like him. And for those that, you know, you can kind of sometimes act bumbling, right? Like he's doing this trick with a $100 bill. And I know how bad he is as this magician as I'm watching, or as, you know, he's going to have to give that $100 to somebody. And he's so good that he makes you sometimes not, like you're like, he can't, there's no way he can do this trick. And he can do it. So now what I want for that is there a connection in the room to, here's this guy, like he's a psychological associate, so he's kind of brainy. And then he's also got this incredibly fun side, magician, and actually owns Abracadabra. Did I say it right? Abracadabra. So anybody, did you hear that? Oh, they made connections. Okay, so now, like I've done all of that, we're going to get into before the event. So I mentioned check before you go. Like, what kind of mood are you in? Do you need to like literally ground yourself? We're rushing. We have a million things on our plate. We're going to maybe run in there a little bit late because we got caught in traffic. What happens to our body, Deborah, when you're running late? You're flooded. Is it cortisol? Okay, Dan, I'm asking you the question. You get flooded with something, fight or flight kind of stuff. Stress. So before you go in there, maybe take a moment before you walk in. If you've been rushing. Also, check in with your personality. I said I'm a borderline introvert, extrovert. I find it so fascinating because in business, I love to talk to people. Out, away, even with my family that I love, I'm not as talkative. But like, I want to share business ideas. I want to share this. When I go to networking events, I kind of need to tell myself not to talk so much because I'll kind of take over because I want to share so much. In fact, somebody just said to me the other day at a networking event, Karen, can I say something? I'm like, oh gosh, I'm so busy sharing. I'm not realizing that sometimes I need to really be more quiet. On the other side, my friends and I call people sometimes extroverted extroverts. Those in the room that know Susie Tozier, raise your hand. Susie is an extroverted extrovert. And I'm trying to think, and Karen Garcia, she wouldn't mind if I would say this for those that know Karen. Karen is an introverted introvert. Karen Garcia is going to be, now that doesn't mean you won't talk and have great long conversations, but in a big group, a bunch of people, she's going to be the most quiet person there. But when she says something, it'll usually have such meat. You're going to go, out of her? She's so quiet, I didn't even, wow, you know. So, is that you? I saw somebody, or are you somebody you know? I saw you making somebody you know. So when we're going into events, are we bringing our extroverted self? If we're introverted, do we need to maybe come out a little bit more? If we're extroverted, do we need to maybe be a little bit, you know, quieter? So being heard. I also have this thing about business cards. Everyone in the room, when we go to a meeting, and like just say today, you paid $29 to be here. And you're here primarily for learning, not so much for networking. But if you walk out of here with a connection that you could do business with, you could buy their services or they could buy yours, it could make this meeting kind of priceless. And a lot of times what happens to our business cards is we get them and we have like the 3 that we got from this one event, right? It's laying there. Then we go to another event and we got 3 or 4 more, and so we kind of put them together. Then does anybody else rubber band them? And then they end up like in a shoebox and you got all these business cards. So like years ago, I started using these little Ziploc bags when I would go to events. And I would put from that event, you know, it was an Experts for Entrepreneur, it was a B&I meeting, it was a Thrive workshop over at Gateway to Dreams. But I would put them in there, and I would take a small piece of paper and put a note on it, the date and the group, and put it in here. For me, what that meant was when someone put them in my database for me, I could take those cards and go in and put where I met them, other information. So I have this little thing about a checklist for you. I love to make connections, but sometimes I'm human and I will not have a business card with me. I've given them all out. So actually today I brought this new thing that I made for you guys, and now I'm going to make it for myself too. It's going to be something to keep in the car with your with bags for these, your business cards, a marker, but so you can be prepared. Like, you know, how many of us, and the guys and us women, we go through them and we forget to refill it. And you need them, And you're in the car and you're like, oh man, I don't think I have any business cards with me. Well, we want you to have them, so we'll do a drawing at the end for that. Also, now, one of my girlfriends, Cynthia Carell, and then Peg Higgins and Diane Hahn. Diane Hahn and Peg Higgins, they saw me using these, and these really can kind of have the business cards tear them. So that my friends Diane Hahn and Peg Higgins, they went and bought me these special heavy-duty plastic, which you guys are all going to get one of them today. And it's big enough that I can put a 3x5 card in there. So if there are notes I need that I can't write on a card, it'll be right in there for you. It's like mine is enamel, front and back. You can't write on it. Also, if you're at an event that will let you do a giveaway, don't we have a giveaway later today too from Daniel?
We forgot the attachment.
So they can go ahead and email and we can send it to them. So when we were doing this, how many know Daniel Rubenstein? Cards to list. Like, if you go to an event, like he couldn't be here, there was something else that he had already committed to, but he's giving every one of you a chance to try his service. But let's say that you're part of a group and you ask the powers that be, can I give away a gift certificate? So another thing that you might want to bring with you are gift certificates at different events you're at, because when you give something away and they draw it, you get more attention. So like eWomen Network, at the end of every one of their meetings, they would have people stand up with their giveaways. You know what people we'd have raffles. Donna Gamache has now started the Tapestry Network, and they're doing the same thing there. So what giveaway could you give that could have everybody in the room know about you and get more people in your pipeline? So let's see. So I talked about the little checklist thing here. Have a checklist so that you're ready to go. During the event, again, we talked about this whole attitude thing. As positive as you can be will help you make better connections. This is a positive attitude is a powerful force for good, giving life to everything it touches. We've already talked about dropping negative judgments of others and making the connection. Mark is a pro at this, so is Bill Purnett. Really listening. In fact, Bill, didn't you take that assessment and you're like super, super high as a listener?
Yeah, one of our partners, Stephen Hanger, is big into neuroscience, and so they have that ability to test in ions.
Yes, Mark.
I was going to mention this before, but you mentioned how you're introverted and extroverted. I'm exactly the same way. You would never know I'm an introverted person, but it's learning how you are can help you do better.
I absolutely agree with that. In fact, there are so many cool assessments out there, and the more we know about ourselves, it actually helps us understand ourselves and other people better. One of my favorites, there's Myers-Briggs, there's one of my favorites is the Strengths Finder by the Gallup organization, the same ones that do the bucket book, How Full Is Your Bucket? So listening for what excites people. I'm telling you, if you've never talked BMWs with Steve, like he gets on fire. Like he can talk about changing the stuff, like we have things like that excite us. And when you notice that in someone, now I do make notes on this stuff because I have a I'm older than almost everybody in the room except for Bill, I think. And I know a lot of people. I can't remember it all. So I really do use my database. I put stuff in there about their kids. I put stuff in there about their animals. I put stuff in there about a sport they like. Because when I'm revisiting them to call them, or like somebody's going through something, mental note, I'm trying to think, somebody that I know just had something going on in their personal life that, her dog literally, it was taking her dog to the vet and it was having seizures. That dog's important to her. If you're a dog person, you kind of turn into we can cross over a line, I'm telling you, I know that my husband and I did. We crossed a line where that dog became so important to our family that when we lost this dog, we both were like, how can we be this devastated? So I knew that this person going through that. So asking, how is your dog? How is your daughter that just went away to school for the first time? I care. I'm not like doing it to build the relationship because it's for business. I care, but it does make the connection that will help you in business. In fact, who said connection earlier? Like really, I can feel it. I can feel when I make a connection to someone. Glenda was in the office Tuesday. Was it Tuesday when the woman came in?
Yes.
There's this wonderful new woman in my life, Pat Adams. Yes. Pat Adams, Active Lifestyle. It's a publication. I used to publish my own magazines. I know a lot about publishing. And she walked in, and we felt it. It's like, oh my God, we had so much in common. There was a connection, and now that would be Mark. I immediately run to Facebook because I'm more of even though I know business-wise LinkedIn is better, I'm a Facebook girl because for me it's immediate gratification. LinkedIn is more work for me, so somebody else know that? So I immediately reached out to Pat. I only met her and I'm freaking in love with this woman and I just want to help everybody. That's what happens to me. I fall in love with people. But I feel the connection when it happens. Now there's some people it takes longer for me to have that connection, and sometimes it's a lot of times people that hold things closer in, they're not, but once I've got it, I can feel it, and I just how do I help them? Like Mark, who do I know that can help them? What do I know that can help them? And this is by Dale Carnegie. You can close more business in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get people interested in you. Bill Purnett, I don't know how long it was, because Bill Purnett never talks about himself. For those that know Bill, do you notice that? We don't hear about his business. We don't hear about, he leads by example. He's always interested in us. And then you want to do business with Bill. You want to do business because you know that he really cares about you. And you love referring him. So Jeffrey Gitomer says, if you have matching passions or in other way make a link with another person, the connection goes from casual to personal. And I believe that to be true. That when we, when we're out in the professional environment and we're being all professional, and then there's that thing, that connection that happens, it quits being professional and it becomes personal. It's like, this is one of my peeps. This is part of my tribe. This is Karen Libby. Oh my gosh, Karen Libby and I had been on this radar of knowing about each other for years. And then when we were launching Gateway to Dreams, it was like, oh my God, she's so. One of my guys friends had told me, Hildebrand had told me 7 years ago, you and Karen, you guys would really hit it up. Yeah, I want to meet her. That didn't happen. It didn't happen. And then when it did, I think we went from casual to personal. So, and Tom Peters says, we're all in the connection business. We all are making connections. The part that Mark was talking about, he was so strategic about, how do we, I'm a little behind my slides. I said that already. We are all in the connection business. How do we connect people to other people? What do they have going on? I literally am kind of like, I feel like I'm a little strange on this. I wake up in the morning, like, who haven't I done the connections for yet? Like, because if I could do nothing else ever except do introductions for people, like, it just, and when I say that, strategic introductions, I don't want to just waste people's times. There is something that can happen for the two companies or two people to be. This is another one of my favorite quotes from Zig Ziglar. And in this whole world of making connections and meeting people, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's, I think you could tell with what Mark was saying, he actually cares about these people. He wants to make a difference in their business. He wants to make a difference in their life. So we talked about, like, before you go to an event, while you're at the event making connections, what happens afterwards? So, like, what happens today when you go home? How are you going to stay connected? And so I say, take a minute and go through the cards. Before they start getting in those little piles, go through them. People that you've really made a connection with, or someone that you told that you were going to follow up with, try to do that as soon as possible, because you're going to forget. I was just telling Dawn Barry, I am trying so many ways to get better about all of the follow-up. So I created my own it's not a 3-ring binder, this coil binder that I use to put everything I have to do in it, plus all the connections. I try to keep this in my purse, just how do you make sure you follow up? The 3x5 cards in here. Business cards, the Ziploc bags. I don't know how many in the room has a customer relationship management software. I use ACT. It could be an Excel spreadsheet. Somebody was just talking to me about using Google, something in Google to track things. But to me, before we decide where we're going to go to network, we really need to know what we're going to do with this information before we go anywhere. A lot of software programs, you can put it may not be a customer relationship management program, but you could still put all the people's information in it. I don't know how the chiropractic world works, but for your software, if it has like where you met somebody and
Yes, there is a field that I can go into to remind you that connections.
To me, those are things that help me reconnect with people. So what are you going to do with the cards? Do you have time to enter them? If you don't, look for someone to do that for you, whether it's weekly. Daniel Rubenstein with his, I'm sorry, somebody knows it better than me. It's so cool name, Cards to List, taking the card and getting it in your list. On the sheet that I have for you, I have Daniel's information, and I also have two women that do data entry and card entry. One of them, like Barbara Nelson, she loves entering cards, loves it. And then also Pat Eberhardt likes to do that as well. But going to the events and having this information and not doing something with it is really wasting your time and costing you a possible really cool relationship. What are you going to remember about that new contact? Sometimes, my brain sometimes just feels like it's on overload with, okay, I know I met him, and if I don't have my computer, where did I meet him? What, as Mark said, what was memorable about him? What struck me about them, and make notes on that to keep it fresh in your mind. After you've got them in your database, then what? Now, if I don't have time to get the stuff to someone to do data entry, someone I've made a really strong connection with, I will personally enter in right then and there. That like Pat that we just met on Tuesday, I put her in. But other times what I'll do is I'll take my list and I will go to Facebook. If I've met them and we've had a good talk, I will reach out and I will say, loved meeting you at the Tapestry Network, you know, and if they want to connect with me, great. If not, I understand that. And I'm really like Mark about, I'm going to call it being I don't like this word, but I'm going to use snob, but it's not snob. I care so much about the connection that if you email me and I don't know you and I don't remember where I met you, not email, if you LinkedIn me or you Facebook me, if I don't know, I won't say yes. And so what I've asked people to do when I speak to groups is tell me where we met. That will help me, you know, when if I made a connection to you at Go Network when I was speaking there, put something in there so that I want to stay connected. I don't want a bunch of names in there that don't mean anything. Yes?
I have a story to tell you.
Yes.
Quick.
Yes.
I reached out to you because someone told me to. And listen to what happened. You said, oh, this is great.
I hope it's great. I'm sitting here going, oh, what did I do?
You said, hey, Julie, I'm one of these strange people that links says yes to people I already know on LinkedIn. But your title intrigued me, and in looking at your referrals, my friend Sandy Hubert was there applauding you. So I had to say yes, positively. So that was an April.
Yeah. So I am like that. I want if I refer someone, I want a connection. If I am helping someone, I want a connection. So it's sometimes like one of my girlfriends one time said, it shocks me because you are so open and you love, I go, I know, but I can't do it the other way. I can't do the yes for me. And I know that it also hurts my business. So when I say that, I got to put that out there. The more, I believe sometimes the more open you are to allowing anyone that wants to connect with you, that could reap good things. But for me and my box around this, it's that connection that is so important to me for my heart. So you've got them now, you're getting them into your database. What do you do now? Tom Ruich, who's not in the room, but someone from his company has Market Vault, and I think they're going to also have a flyer from Market Vault to pass out at some point. You know, what are you going to do to stay in touch with people? I'm not yet, and even though I pay for this service, I'm not good at sending out the emails through a contact management program, and I want to be. That's a resolution I'm making. But they are wonderful to help. Like there are some of them, like Kathy Sexton's productivity tips. It comes, I want to see what's going on. I want to learn, you know, for those that make an impression on me. So for you, what tips can you share? How do you keep that connection alive? Earlier, Dawn and I were talking about this, and I will tell you that since January 2014, when we opened our nonprofit Gateway to Dreams, I am not as good about this, but I love sending personal cards. I love having, and also when I know something has happened in somebody's family, if somebody has passed away or if it's a birthday, I love doing that stuff. To me, that's another way to stay connected, and it's me showing that I think about people. I'm also on Facebook a lot and send private messages, like somebody I haven't seen, I'm going to say, really miss you, haven't seen you for a while, or something like that. How many ways can you stay in touch? We were also talking, Dawn and I had a nice conversation this morning. When you send things, how many are familiar with the term lumpy mail? Now, Bill did not raise his hand. Lumpy mail. Like, how many of you, when you're rifling, is it rifling or riffling? Rifling. When you're rifling through your mail and you see that handwritten card, don't you kind of like, I wonder who that's from?
Yes.
What about the lumpy thing in the mail? Like, it's got something that makes it not flat. It's like, oh, it's called lumpy mail. Like they sent a pen or they sent something else with it. And I'm going to say Bill Purnett, right after I met him, I was in a funnel where I got this really cool box in the mail from him that had Post-it notes. Or no, it was this calendar box. It was totally freaking cool, awesome. And I don't think I've ever said thank you for that totally cool, awesome, amazing. I don't get that much big lumpy mail. That was a big lumpy mail. You know, and so how do we stay connected to people? And one of the other things that I love to do, and this is like kind of, my friends kind of coined this, you know, Karen's email introductions, but that's one way that I love to make my connections. Instead of wait until we're together in a room, although I do that all the time, like that's, when I go to networking events, I'm looking for people I know to connect them to people they don't know. Like, I am gonna gravitate toward people I know. I'm gonna, Glenda, I want you to come over here. Even if I don't know this person,
Yes.
I want you guys to, yeah. Yeah, and I can be a little embarrassed, Cynthia, I can be a little embarrassing about it, right? Yeah, but I love to do that. But the other thing is email introductions. We can all do those. I don't go to, and some people don't like this about me, but if you're not paying me, I don't really have the time to do this really cool way where I give everybody's total information, because I'm not a typist. I cut and paste, but what I'll do is I will say, Dawn, you need to talk to Glenda. Glenda's got this leadership thing going on. I'll let you guys take it from there. Hope it's a great connection. And I try to give both sides, like, why. I don't like giving somebody a phone number and asking them to call. I want both parties to like, oh, Dawn, Glenda, when they call, yeah, I got that email. So I do email introductions. And let's see. I think I have a few minutes left. Questions?